Reformed Church.
I felt led to just at least throw out this recommendation for you, okay? This just as a for instance, is a good for instance, all right? If someone came to me talking about being concerned or afraid of something, right, or worried about something that way, what I would probably tell them, something like this at least, is that from the get-go, that the Lord has invalidated your concerns, that your concerns are not real, okay? Now you can say, oh, but I have this in my body. How can you say my concern isn't real? The thing in your body is real, right? But what you're concerned about regarding that thing is not real. Let me give you an explanation on this, but the series that I would recommend that talks about this is Why Perfected Love Casts Out Fear, okay? If you want to go through those quick reads, those are quick reads too, so come on, right? This is not even a full article, so we can do this, right? You could search that on the website, Why Perfected Love Casts Out Fear, or some of those keywords, or you can go straight to the emotions section of Reform U, which is toward the bottom of the page. You can click on that section. There's a whole bunch of stuff there as well, but Why Perfected Love Casts Out Fear. I think it's like 3 or 4 parts, something like that. But let me just tell you this. So the reason why I just want to tell you that your concerns or your fears are not valid. They're not real. What you fear is not real. All right? It's not real. Because Jesus did something about whatever it is you're going through. Jesus has an answer for that. Okay? And he did something about it, and you have something for it. The good example that I'll just give you very quickly that I do mention in the quick reads is, I think it was Elisha, was surrounded by an army. All right? Surrounded like totally by an army, and it's him and his servant. And him and his servant are both looking at the same situation, you could say, so to speak, at least in regards to the army that was surrounding them. And the servant became very afraid. Now, you would say, or I would say to the servant, right, like, don't be afraid, your fear isn't real. And that servant might say, well, how can you say that my fear isn't real? Because what I'm fearing is this army surrounding me, and they're really there. And I would reply, the army is really there. I'm not saying the army's not there. I'm not saying the bodily thing is not there. I'm not saying that what you're looking at isn't there. That's not what I'm saying. But your fear isn't real. And you may say, well, how can you say that I'm looking at this issue, and you're saying that that's really there, and I'm fearing that issue, but my fear isn't real? It's not real. Because you're perceiving that thing incorrectly, which is causing the fear. If you perceived that thing correctly, it wouldn't make you afraid. It's not something to be afraid of. And to finish that account, Elisha, I believe it was Elisha, was not afraid, and his servant was. They both see the same army, and one was afraid and one was not. And Elisha asks the Lord and says, Lord, open his eyes, which isn't that always the solution to fear. The Lord removing the army right now wasn't the solution to fear, because the fear would be gone if you just saw the army correctly. And the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he saw angels with chariots of fire surrounding, it says, Elisha, which I think is cool that it says it was surrounding Elisha. Whereas if they were standing both right next to each other, you would think they're surrounding both of them. But it was Elisha specifically that was receiving from God. So the Bible says they were surrounding Elisha, even though they were right next to each other talking. So that's kind of a cool point too. But that aside, the servant saw the army and didn't see it in context of the Lord. So he was super afraid. Elisha looked at the situation, saw the same army, but he saw more than that. He saw it in context of the Lord, so he was like, I'm not afraid of this because I can see also chariots of fire surrounding me. And that's when actually, I believe that's the account where the Lord ends up striking that army with blindness, and they all get led by Elisha. Again, I think it's Elisha. And they get led away by Elisha, all blind. But that's my point. Was the fear of the servant real? It wasn't real. What he thought about his circumstance literally was not real. There's no such thing as a real fear. Not that you're not actually feeling it, not that you're not actually looking at an issue, but the fear isn't founded. It's not based on facts. It's not based in reality. Fears for a believer cannot be based in reality, otherwise God would never tell you not to fear. What are we saying? Are we saying that God's advice is not based in reality? Think about this, what we're saying. If God tells you not to fear, just so you know, God doesn't tell everybody not to fear. To an unbeliever that rejects him, he'll never tell them don't fear. Just to believers, he says, don't be afraid, right? If you think your fear is based in reality, then what? Is God not based in reality? Is he not based in reality? Because he told you not to fear. So one of you aren't seeing reality. I'm going to side with God and say, maybe I'm not seeing what you're seeing, Lord. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need a little opening of the eyes to see what you're seeing, because I saw what you were seeing. The situation isn't scary. It's fixed. It's solved. I have just the thing for it. Whatever you need to see about Jesus would put the situation into context, and you would see, despite the fact that what you see is real, there's more to it than what you're seeing, and you're getting a deceptive view of your circumstances. Just like that servant. He had a deceptive view. The army was real, but he had a deceptive view of his circumstances, not taking everything into account, and was misled. And because he was misled, he was afraid, despite the fact that he wasn't even in a fearful situation. You fear because of what you don't know. You don't fear because it's real. What you're fearing, I should say that. What you're fearing isn't real. It's not real. It's literally not real. It's like a kid that runs into his parents' room because he had a bad dream. It's not real. It's literally not real. Otherwise, we're saying God's advice of don't fear is not rooted in reality. Any negative emotion is literally not real. You are being deceived. And as much as the devil cannot deceive you by speaking into your mind, like many Christians believe he can, that's not a thing, right? Regardless of whether it's just merely natural, or whether it's the devil outside of you through circumstances or other people, getting his doctrine around, and you've picked up on it somehow through a third party. You're being deceived. Someone is lying to you in order to eat. A Christian can't be afraid unless they're lied to. You literally cannot be afraid unless you're lied to. So take that advice to heart. That's not personal advice. You don't need to. Today, you don't need to come up to me after and ask me for further advice. You don't need it. That's for every believer. There's no advice that's specific to you. You're just the same as any other believer. That advice goes for everybody that's a believer. Your fear isn't real. Whatever it is, your fear is not real. You want to find out how it's not real? Get on Reform U and go get trained. I'm telling you, and I'm not saying we got every single answer on there, but I guarantee you that's a pretty darn good start. Probably more than a start. So it's all good stuff. I would recommend Why Perfected Love Casts Out Fear. Shoot, it's a quick read, and we got the audio version. You don't even have to read it, although it's AI, so you're probably better off reading it so you understand the context and the way that it's written. But read those things, and then when you get done with it, you know what you do when you read those? This is what you do. You meditate on it, because you're not going to grow in that because you read it. You grow in something when you use it. You read it, you go think about it. For how long? All day long. You go and you think about it. And after you've thought about it, then you think about it more. And you let God show you all the nuances that can come out of that seed that was sown in your heart. That seed grows, that seed produces fruit. Some of that for your mind, some of that for your body. Whatever it is for your circumstance. It grows, it produces fruit. After you've used it, after your senses have been trained to discern what's true and what's not through use. Use it, meditate on it, chew on it. Maybe go back and read it again and then meditate on anything new that you found in it, okay? I'm just giving this specific recommendation, but whatever it is that the Lord wants to speak to you in your life, meditate on it and chew on it. If you don't know what to meditate on, that's what listening to the Lord is for. Ask the Lord to give you something to meditate on. Okay, it's not real. Not real. We hope you enjoyed this message from Reformed Church. If you have, please share this with someone else and help us get this unpopular message to the world. If you'd like to support Reformed Church, you can do so at reforminus.com/give. Also on our website, you can take advantage of our free messages, articles, and even full discipleship courses. Start reforming your mind now at reforminus.com.